and we are live for another edition of the All Gas No Break Sports Show. I am one of your co-hosts, Nicholas Pavona, joined alongside, as always, by my co-host, Andrew Johnson. And Johnson, we're now down to officially the final two teams in this year's MLB season. One series was a sweep, was pretty non-explanatory, One team dominated the other, of course, but then the other series that we had in the American League, 7-game thriller, a heroic home run late in that game last night taking place. We'll talk about that in just a few moments. And now we have our World Series matchup for one team. They are trying to win they're trying to go back to back for the first time in a long time. And for another team, they're trying to win their first championship since 1993 when they went back to back.
It's kind of funny because let's do the spoilers right now. The sweep. Let's talk about the LA Dodgers right now, and Dave Roberts is 4 wins away, from quote unquote ruining baseball for everyone. Ruining baseball for everyone. So, Nick, do you want to talk about it?
What do you want to dive into first? I guess the American League side of things.
Let's talk about the National League. I feel like that's not much to talk about.
All right, yeah, let's talk about the National League. I hate to say it for the Brewers, but this is just kind of the same thing that's been happening for them for years past. It's not only the only time this has happened to them. This has happened on so many numerous occasions, and unfortunately, things just didn't go their way. They were struggling hitting throughout the entire series against the Dodgers. I believe they scored 4 runs in total against the Dodgers in this entire series, which is, for the team that had the best record in the National League, you're not going to be able to survive a series against the Dodgers doing that. And looking back at it now, yeah, exactly 1 run in each of the games that these two teams played. They had a chance at game number 1 to get a potential come from behind victory and steal that game. They let it go late, bases loaded, 2 outs. Bryce Terang strikes out with the bases loaded. And that pretty much was the only game that the Brewers, it felt like, were in the series. We saw Ohtani having an unbelievable, series itself, and including that Game 4 performance, which has got to be considered one of the greatest postseason performances of all time. 6 innings, 10 strikeouts, and of course hitting 3 home runs at the plate. You've never really seen anybody do that in baseball history, let alone do that in the postseason. And Ohtani does it in the biggest game for the Dodgers, getting them a back-to-back pennant, giving them a chance to go back-to-back. They would be the first back-to-back World Series champion since the Yankees from 1998 to 2000. The most recent back-to-back champion, of course, Johnson, we know from college basketball, that being the UConn Huskies. But there hasn't really been a back-to-back pro sports champion in a very long time. So I think the Lakers, if I'm not mistaken, were the last back-to-back pro.
Golden State, Nick, come on.
Oh, Golden State, right. Yeah, sure, almost got it. It wasn't the right sport. I was in the right sport.
Listen, still California and Super Team that ruined the sport for a little bit.
So looking at it now, they would be the first back-to-back champion in Major League since the Yankees, as I mentioned. And I'm not right about the Warriors. Technically, they were the second closest team to do it. The Tampa Bay Lightning, I forgot, did that back in 2020 and 2021. So they were the most recent professional sports team to get back-to-back championships. So the Dodgers have a chance to do that for the first time.
It wasn't the Chiefs, though, right? Did the Chiefs go back-to-back more recently?
Nope.
Oh, wait, they skipped years? Yep. Okay.
They won, then they lost to Tampa, and then they won again. And then they lost again. So they're 2-2. But yeah, I mean, this is what I kind of expected. I just expected the Dodgers have so much more firepower on this team. The Brewers, as great as they were all season, it's just after a hard-fought back-and-forth series with the Cubs to get to that spot, you just kind of got the sense that that time was running out for this team to even try to get anything going, and it showed in that series against the Dodgers.
And let's talk about the Dodgers right now. For the majority of the year, they were the 4th best team in the National League. I mean, were you really that impressed by them in the regular season?
They, compared to what everyone was expecting them to be, no, they had a not a great,
severely underwhelming.
Right, everyone was expecting them to win 110 plus games during the regular season.
But you know what? Kind of like the hate to say it's kind of like how Detroit, they expect them to win the division. Hey, they won the wild card, so like they still made it where it's supposed to be. If the Dodgers won the World Series, that's what they're supposed to do. So underperform the regular season all you want. If they win the World Series, that's it. So
Yeah,
they'll all be forgotten pretty soon if they end up winning it, which looks like they have a really good chance to. And I'll talk about this more in the next series. But
yeah,
if you're Milwaukee, what do you do from here? Because this is the best season you've had in ages, and you
yeah.
just got absolutely outmatched and outclassed on all ends of the matchup here. Whether it was offensively, whether it was defensively, hitting, pitching, the bullpen. It seems like they were just outgunned at every position.
Well, this is where some of the talks where you mentioned about the Dodgers earlier on and how everyone thinks that they're ruining the sport. It's not necessarily their fault for doing what they're doing. Like they're doing this at the confines of what the MLB marking, like what's the collective bargaining agreement is. Like they're allowed to do what they're doing because that's what the salary
Yeah,
cap
but
and
it's
or
also about
whatever.
18 months away from forcing a lockout.
Right, which is what I was getting to. I think that's the problem right now. I think at this point they're trying. I think the owners are trying to advocate for a salary cap, and the players I don't think want a salary cap at this point. So that's where I think a lockout is very much in play right now. And the reason the owners want that is because of what the Dodgers are doing. Because the Dodgers just have an insane roster. Like there's really nothing you can do about it. I saw it for we all saw it firsthand last year throughout the majority of that season, and then in the postseason, no team had a chance. The Yankees had barely any hope in the World Series. The fact that they got one game out of that series was honestly a miracle because the Yankees could have won multiple games, and then the Dodgers just showed why they're so good because they have this guy in the lineup, and then this guy's in the lineup. Then oh look, we have four of the five best pitchers in all baseball going for us right now. It just goes to show you that they're playing to the confines of what's currently going on. And then if you're the Brewers, going back to your original question, it's tough because you're in a market that's not predominantly big in Wisconsin, and you're playing to whatever you think you could play up to, and you're at the point where you've been kind of doing the same song and dance for how many years now? Riding with the basic same roster. You've been able to get a couple NL Central championships out of it. You've made the playoffs a bunch of times. This is your first NLCS appearance since 2018. But it's at the point where that they're one of those teams that are probably going to advocate for that salary cap. That way they could try to compete with the Dodgers at the end of the day. And at this point in time, they're still going to be a playoff team on paper, but until until we see something otherwise, there's just no team right now that on paper is going to match up with this Dodgers team entirely. There's just no one in the MLB can do it. That's the problem.
Yeah, and there's even rumors that they'll be in the Kyle Tucker sweepstakes as well.
Yeah, they're going to be in the sweeps for every player.
And listen, I get it's like
That's what
CBA that's
happens.
allowing this, but it is ridiculous that you can just defer $700 million.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
Listen,
it's
you
just
got to
crazy.
find loopholes, and that's what you got to do. That's you want to win championships. You got to find that. You got to find ways to do it. Because remember, the narrative for the Dodgers for how many years was that they are never going to get this job done. They win that Mickey Mouse ring in 2020, and then they finally proved last year that okay, this was a legitimate championship. Yes, did they buy their championship? Absolutely, no question about it. But you can't fault them for buying into a championship. Every single team, if they could, would absolutely pay the amount of money they would pay to certain players to get a championship. The Mets are going to be doing that the next couple of years as well. They did it last year
Yeah.
with this Juan Soto sweepstakes. They showed that they're going to try to do something like that similar. But
I mean, it'll be
yeah,
very interesting to see how this offseason plays out. But before we even talk about the offseason, we need to talk about the other series. And we got to talk about our World Series mushing hour. And let's talk about that 7-game classic
yeah,
that that we had between the
Mariners and the Blue
Seattle
Jays. Yeah,
Mariners and the Toronto Blue Jays. And it looked like for the majority of that game in Game 7, it was going to be Seattle going to their first World Series in forever.
first ever. Yeah, they would have been the
Yeah,
first
in
time they did
forever.
it. Yeah,
But it turns out George Springer with that 3-run homer in the bottom of the 7th, that was enough to propel the Blue Jays in the winning 4-3 in that game. They're going to the World Series. They're going to play in November baseball, or Maybe they'll play November baseball. Maybe the Dodgers will make
Yeah,
quick work of him. Who knows at this point?
we don't know yet, but
But yeah, this was a classic series between two teams, and both bullpens went they went the distance. You had multiple starting guys coming in, taking 1 or 2 innings at a time, and Joe Springer just happened to be in the right place at the right time, and he's the hero of this series now.
again, I mean, it's been we've seen this so many times with George Springer. I hate to say it from his previous times in Houston, but Springer has been synonymous with making these moments in the playoffs, and he did it again in Game 7 last night. A 3-run homer in the 7th inning when the Blue Jays were down 3-1, and he gives them a 4-3 win in that game. I think the most frustrating part for the Mariners, if you look at it from their side, remember how this series started, Johnson. They were dominating the series to start off. They were up 2-0, won both games in Toronto, went back home, and then they lost the next 2 games, and they lost it in very bad fashion. Both blowout losses at home. So now series is tied 2-2 going into Game 5. And thankfully for the Mariners, they did come back to win that Game 5. Eugenio Suarez delivering the game, breaking grand slam to give them a 6-2 victory in that game. And they had 2 chances to win this series, Johnson. Unfortunately, on Game 6 on Sunday, they just could not hit Trey Savage. He had a really strong start in that game. 3 errors also plagued them in that one. They lose 6-2. And then we talked about it last night. Good pitching performance they had in that matchup where Kevin Gausman went for Toronto. He did everything he could. Or I'm sorry, not Kevin Gausman. Shane Bieber was the starter for Toronto. Gausman did come in relief. And Bieber would face off against George Kirby. Kirby pitched a really strong game to start. Brian Wu came in and afterwards was up and down in that spot. I think the problem for what happened for Seattle in that game last night was in that spot, the top of the lineup is coming up with Springer up at first and second, or sorry, second and third and 1 out. I was expecting the Mariners to go to Andres Munoz in that spot, their star closer, to try to see if he can get out of that jam. They keep in Bizarro, who at that point was pitching after replacing Wu, and he gives up the go-ahead home run or the game-winning home run in that spot, and that was it. Mariners couldn't get anything going offensively in that game. The only players that showed up offensively in this one were Julio Rodriguez and Cal Raleigh, and that felt like that for a majority of the series as well. Those 2 guys really stepping up, as well as Josh Naylor. And at the end of the day, you got to as much as I hate to say because they eliminated the Yankees, but you got to tip your cap to Toronto because of what they've done this postseason. They've done it in a multitude of ways. Great pitching, but their offense also has been doing great numbers this postseason, especially for Vladimir Guerrero. He's hitting 442, Johnson, going into the
Yeah,
World
he's been
Series.
absolutely ridiculous right now, and it's going to be an unstoppable force. There's an immovable object between him and Shohei Ohtani. It's going
Yeah,
to be must see baseball.
yeah. I think actually going to an earlier question you asked about the Brewers and where they go from here. I think if you turn this things for the Mariners side, I still like what they're building because they still have one of the best rotations in all of baseball. I would like to see them add something to their lineup in the offseason because you have guys like Rodriguez, you have guys like Raleigh who might win the AL MVP, who knows. Josh Naylor was a nice addition for you at the All-Star break trade deadline, as well as Eugenio Suarez for the most part. He had an up and down season. They need to figure out the rest of the lineup, in my opinion. If they could fix that rest of their lineup in terms of adding a player here and there, they've got a really good chance of getting back to the spot next year and then finally getting over that hump and maybe making it to their first ever World Series as well.
And I think we could talk about it. Nick, do you want to give our your official prediction on who's going to win this World Series? I've got mine.
Yeah, I got to pick the Dodgers to sweep. I just have to.
Me too.
It's nothing against Toronto. It's just how do you beat this team? Like there's just the Dodgers
Yeah, it's absolutely no shit on
because
Toronto.
because think of it this way: the Dodgers' main, I feel like their main flaw for most of the season was their bullpen. Right? Am I wrong to say that?
No, you're correct.
And what they've done this postseason is they've put some of their starters into the bullpen now to make sure that they don't have those flaws. Roki Sasaki has been put in the bullpen a lot. There were points during the Phillies series they used Tyler Glass now, who has been great for them since he returned from his
Yeah,
injury late in the
phenomenal out of the
season.
bullpen.
And Now you go into this series where you have Otani coming off an unbelievable historic performance in game four. Blake Snell has been pitching insane for them as well during this postseason. Yamamoto has been pitching great for them as well in this postseason. And then you got Glass now. So you're going up against those four guys in the first four games. And you're putting a lot of pressure on your starters, guys like Kevin Gossman, Shane Bieber, you Savage, and then maybe Max Scherzer if that's your game four, whatever starter. There's so much pressure on those guys get to try to outduel what arguably is four of the top 10 to 15 starters in all of baseball right now.
Yeah,
It just feels like it's impossible for this team. If they can get one, I think that's a win. I know you don't want to lose the World Series, but if they can get one game out of the series, I think that would be great for them. I just am having a tough time finding that win. The only way they're going to be able to do it is if they outslug them in one game, and that might be possible. They could do that certainly, but over a 7-game series at best, I just don't see that happening every single time. They're gonna have a tough time battling it out with this team.
yeah, I totally agree with everything you have to say there. The only thing I think I'm going to disagree with you is who are you going with for World Series MVP?
I think the obvious pick is Otani. I'm not going to pick him because I would like to see someone different win it. For that reason, I'm going to go with Blake Snell. He needs to be commended for what he's done for the Dodgers this postseason. He was an unbelievable pickup for them in the offseason because he had a really good tenure in San Diego and San Francisco, and the Dodgers swooped them up. And it was one of those where, oh man, how is it possible the Dodgers got this guy with all the money they're already spending? Look at what he's done this postseason for this Dodgers team. I'm going to pull up the numbers in a second, but he's been unbelievable. He has to be showed as to why he's one of the top pitchers in all of baseball. This in this last year itself. In this postseason, Johnson, he started 3 games. All 3 have been quality starts. He's 3-0. He's pitched 21 innings. He's allowed 6 hits, 2 earned runs, 5 walks, 28 strikeouts. ERA of .86. He's been unbelievable for them this postseason. So
He's
it's
certainly
probably gonna
postseason MVP.
it's probably gonna be Otani. But I'm gonna go with Blake Snell to be my World Series MVP pick because I
Yeah, I
don't want
like
to.
it.
I don't want to be that guy that picks him as I'm sure. I'm certain you're gonna probably pick Otani.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
just
picking
gonna try to be
Otani.
different. Yeah, I'm just gonna try to be different.
I'm picking Otani. It's the easy answer here, especially if he pitches too. So if this guy's
Oh,
pitching
he's
and
gonna
hits home
pitch.
runs, yeah, it's over.
If I had to guess, the Dodgers are going to probably roll out Snell in game one, probably Yamamoto. I'm going to probably assume they're going to do exactly what they did against the Brewers. It's probably going to be Snell, Yamamoto, Glasnow, and Otani game four. That's how I expect it to go. And if that's the case, good luck, Blue Jays. Like I said, your only hope is you have to find a way to outslug them in one of these 4, maybe more than 4, 5, 6 games. Like they have to figure out a way to do it. That's the only hope they have. And
Yeah,
I just
and
don't think it's enough.
it's crazy because I hate the 3-2-2 playoff split. I absolutely despise it. Or it's 2-3-2. I'm sorry, right?
It's 2-3-2. Yep.
Yeah, I absolutely despise that because the Dodgers could lose one at home and then lose the series because they're all at home now on the road. So like, it's
Yeah.
crazy. I despise this
The
playoff
Blue
thing.
Jays have the only luxury of hosting this series because they had the best record in the American League, so they will host the first 2 games, and they'll host the last 2. But the Dodgers, if they sweep, will have a chance to win it at home, which they were not able to do last year,
Yeah, no. So it'd be
and
absolutely
technically 2022.
yeah, no. So I think it'd be kind of crazy. I really despise me. I really despise it like that. But yeah, I agree that Blake Snell's been the best postseason player. But remember, this is a single series, and like you said, if Otani gets 2 or 3 home runs this series, and I know that's asking for a lot, and he pitches one game where he goes 6 innings and he has 7 strikeouts with no earned runs, he's won World Series MVP.
Yeah, I think if I really wanted to go someone outside of Otani, I think the only way I would have to be a hitter. So if I had to pick a hitter for the Dodgers that other than Otani to do it, I'd probably go. I'd probably go Freddie Freeman, but yeah, I'll stick with Blake Snell as my pick. Because you're right, because Blake Snell will have to pitch twice in the series to have probably the best chance to do it. And
Unless he has a 9-inning complete game shutout. That's the only way he would get it.
well, we saw Yamamoto do that. Not a complete game shutout, but he did have a complete game against the Brewers. So I guess it's not out of the realm of possibility they could have Snell go the full 9 in game
Definitely not.
one if they
Definitely
choose
not.
to do so. But
So
yeah,
my final question is before we kind of wrap things up here. What do you think Manny Machado's thinking right now?
uh, probably I don't even know. I mean, obviously he was on this Dodgers team a couple years ago, and
Because I really do feel bad for him because he was on this Dodgers team and then he left right before they got really good.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the nature of the sport. I mean, sometimes players leave and they get better. Look what happened to um, with the Nationals when obviously Bryce Harper was injured when they won the World Series, or I think he was. Or I think that was that the year after he left.
It was the year after they
It
left.
was the year
They
after he
left,
left. I thought
yeah.
he was hurt for some reason that year. No, yeah, look at the Nationals. I mean, that's a prime example. They win the World Series the first year he leaves after he goes to Philadelphia. The same thing, it's just it happens sometimes. At the end of the day, these teams can lose a star player, and then look, now they're the best team in the last I want to say the last decade. Like the only team that represents what or is a reenactment of what this Dodger team is the late '90s Yankees because of all the star power they have. Like it just from top to bottom of their lineup and from 1 to 5 in their rotation, there is one star, one star, one star, and even if they have like a lower tier player that's not to Otani or Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts level, it's still a really good player that would be a top 5 player on any other team, probably.
Yeah, and I love how you brought up both. Well, I mean, I brought up Machado, to be fair, and then you brought up Bryce
Harper.
Harper. And it's crazy because we still don't know the MVP right now, but Aaron Judge in 4 less seasons than both those guys, less than 3,000 less play appearances compared to Manny Machado and 2,600 compared to Bryce Harper. He has a higher wins above replacement than both them. He has more home runs than Bryce Harper and has 1 less home run than Manny Machado for his career. So we don't know the MVP yet, but I think I know the postseason not supposed to
Yeah.
kind of influence it, but I
It's
think
going to
it's
be
between him and
Raleigh.
Cal Raleigh now.
It's going to be Raleigh
You
and
really,
Otani.
you really think it's gonna be Raleigh?
Yeah. I think because of where the Mariners are, if you look at, like, no one, there's never been a catcher that's hit 60 home runs. There's never been a player that's done that. He has to win it.
I guess we'll find out soon because they should be releasing it soon.
It's usually right after the season ends, so it will be soon. But yeah, I think it's gonna be Raleigh.
I guess
Judge,
we'll find out.
it would be nice if Judge wins it, but I'm at the point where MVPs are it's a nice thing to have, but I would like to see something different. Like I want to see them get far in the rest of the season. Like I want them to win a championship.
You would trade probably 5 Aaron Judge MVPs for 1 World Series, and I'm sure he would
Yeah,
too.
I get it. I'm a Yankee fan. I saw the last championship in '09, but that's any other. You could ask every other fan base right now. They would do the exact same thing. They would trade 10 to 5 MVPs, whatever, to get 1 championship. They would in a heartbeat. Not even a question. Awards are nice, player awards are always nice and, always, put that on the mantle case, but at the end of the day, or trophy case, but at the end of the day, you want to win a championship. That's the one you want to put in the trophy case at the end of the day. You want to win the World Series. And for one of these 2 teams, Johnson, they'll have a chance to win the World Series these next couple weeks. We'll see if it does go to November. I highly doubt it, but you never know. I think is it 7? Is that the only game? Yeah. If there's going to be November baseball, it would have to go to 7. So we'll see. Blue Jays maybe try to pull off what would certainly be the biggest, I think, upset championship-wise, probably since the Giants-Patriots Super Bowls.
Oh, I was going to say Georgetown versus Villanova in the '80s for the NCAA championship because the headline was literally Ewing Villanova versus God.
Yeah,
So
yeah. No,
this is pretty much what it is right now.
Yeah, I think the only reason I would root for Toronto is for Don Mattingly. At least that's the only.
Nah, I'm going for the Dodgers. I
I'm.
can't root for Don Mattingly.
I know your reasoning for that. He gets his chance at his first opportunity in the ring because he never made it as a player or even as a manager of the Dodgers, which is a funny storyline for this game. But yeah, we'll see. Um, yeah, at the end of the day, it's tough. Baseball's in a weird spot right now where every team is competing with this Dodgers team. At the end of the day, it just doesn't seem like it's going to be possible to beat this team until something happens. Whether that's a collective bargaining agreement thing or whether that's some other team making a super team. That's really what it comes down to. So yeah. Any final thoughts from you about this before we wrap it up?
You can just bring us home.
All right, I will do that. That's going to do it for this week's edition of the All Gas No Break Sports Show. 28 teams down. We are down to the final two teams in this year's 2025 MLB postseason. It is the Los Angeles Dodgers taking on the Toronto Blue Jays in this year's World Series. Can the Dodgers go back-to-back for the first time in baseball since the 1998-2000 Yankees? Or can Toronto win their first World Championship since 1993? We'll have to tune in and find out. And once that series ends, we will recap it here on this show. For Nicholas Pavona and Andrew Johnson, this is the All Gas No Break Sports Show. Have a great rest of your week.